Welcome back, my beautiful friends. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up in just a few minutes in our influencer segment brought to you by Revere Securities, we're featuring my good friend, Tony Schiena. His name is synonymous with the intelligence sector, counter-terrorism, and counter-human trafficking. He runs the majority of his operations out of his company, MOSAIC, which is Multi-Operational Security Agency Intelligence Company. Also widely regarded as one of the world's leading crisis management firms. He's also the founder, more importantly, of humanslavery.com. Today, we're chatting about the Balenciaga scandal and controversy, child pornography at the heart of it all, how this even happened, and the uproar amongst concerned parents, celebrities, and even Balenciaga's very own famous brand ambassadors. Now, the esteemed Spanish fashion house has been slammed, and I mean slammed, for putting out images of young kids holding teddy bears wearing kinky bondage gear. To make matters worse, these odd pictures are featured in its Christmas advertising campaign. They show sad-eyed toddlers holding teddies that are dolled up in fishnet tops, lock and key collars, and wrist restraints. Now, normally, you'd have to go to some dingy nightclub in New York City's Alphabet City. Now, Balenciaga is putting it on fluffy bears and giving those bears to actual children. In one of the ads, it's the designer's gift collection campaign. Children are posing with the brand's teddy bear purses, which critics pointed out appear to be wearing BDSM and bondage-inspired accessories. The second ad under scrutiny is Balenciaga's Spring 2023 campaign, and it's being criticized for its use of a printout of a Supreme Court decision on child pornography. Now, in the post, Balenciaga wrote, "We strongly condemn child abuse. It was never our intent to include it in any of our narrative." So what went wrong? Here to chat boycotting Balenciaga and the ripple effect this has had on child trafficking and pornography is my dear friend, Tony Schiena. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back on your show.
Tony, what is your reaction to all of this? My stomach is just turned upside down as a mom.
Yeah. No, it's shocking. I mean, I'm still trying to make sense of how a luxury brand has the audacity to put out a campaign like that. Inexcusable. You know, it's taken them a while to come out with a statement and try to seem accountable, you know, as well as celebrities who are attached to that brand. And that's what I find just purely because of public pressure that they have to make a statement. Whether that's coming from a real place, I doubt it. You know, I doubt it. And
so do you feel that this was all intentional? Like, I mean, if now listen, so Balenciaga is suing the production company behind the Spring 2023 ad campaign after this paperwork about the Supreme Court ruling on child pornography was identified in one of the images, right? So they're seeking at least 25 million in damages from the post-production company, North 6, and the set designer, Nicolas Desjardins, and Balenciaga hired them to develop and produce the Spring 2023 campaign, according to the court summons. What do you say to this lawsuit that they're suing now? They're pointing the finger.
Pure deflection. That's what it is. Now, I have a lot of, you know, good friends, and I'm sure you do, in the fashion industry. And, you know, I happened to be with them when I saw this campaign while I was in Mexico City. And we had a very fiery discussion about it. And every one of them who's senior executive level in various brands, global brands based out of New York City, assured me that the decision process reaches the top. At the very least, the CMO, the chief marketing officer, design, legal, etc., even potentially the CEO. Now, for them to deflect by suing the production company is pathetic. And I think the public is not as stupid as they think they are. You know, we have the internet, we can research, we can understand, we can ask people. And that's not how the approval process works. So it's pure deflection.
Pure deflection. And now let's chat how significant this paper prop at the heart of the lawsuit and in the ad campaign truly is. So first off, the court document claims Balenciaga had no knowledge and didn't authorize the inclusion of a paper from an actual Supreme Court ruling, Tony, in the United States that struck down a section of the Child Pornography Protection Act and ruled that fake child porn is protected speech. Like, what? So Balenciaga said that all the items included in this particular shooting were provided by third parties that confirmed in writing that these props were fake office documents, but they turned out to be real legal papers. So who is to blame? And I can't help but smell fish in the water here. What are your thoughts?
Well, firstly, the fact that that's even in that scene, like connect the dots. That's why, right? You're seeing, seemingly office setting. You're seeing that book had Michael Borman's book was in that scene, right? If you open that book, it's the most disturbing images you've ever seen. The other scene being, the young girl with the teddy bear and the bondage harness. These are separate campaigns. It's the spring collection, it's the gift collection, but it's the same underlying messages that they're sending. And the fact that they think they can normalize the sexualization of children, normalize pedophilia, is absolutely disgusting. I can't even begin to understand who okayed this, who greenlit this. And that's the fundamental problem. They're obfuscating, they're deflecting using lawsuits against production companies, but there is an approval process. Who approved these images? Who approved this campaign? And that's what needs to be revealed. We need to know those names, and those individuals or that group or that department needs to be held accountable. And accountability, at the very least, is removal of their positions, at the very least.
At the very least. And what about the parents that allowed these children to be in these photos? I mean, I'm a momager. My child is a model and an actor. She's in huge movies, and we take her to photo shoots and film sets all the time. If I was witnessing this very photo shoot take place, I would have had what to say about it, let alone extract her from the job. Now, the photographer, Gabriele Galimberti, told CNN in a statement last week that the direction and shooting of the campaign featuring the teddy bears were out of his hands. Now, what we're talking about is the second campaign that's featuring children cuddling teddy bears dressed in fetish clothing. Okay, so this is quite disturbing. It seems like everyone is pointing the finger here. It seems like there's a theme forming. Is there a bigger picture we're missing, Tony? Should we be concerned? And are we witnessing the rise of pedo chic?
It's almost indicative of a degradation of society, right? To have the audacity to put out a campaign like that. I think with social media, with podcasts like yourself, the public is starting to realize that and fight back. And they can research for themselves. They can go back and look at Balenciaga's campaigns. Look who else was involved. What was the theme? Like, there's a real issue internally with Balenciaga if you look at their past campaigns and that through line. I think this is where the public needs to stay responsible and hold them accountable. Everyone with children or without children, it doesn't matter.
Exactly.
We have to protect our society. That smut cannot be.
And put an end to what you just said. We should not be sexualizing children. This is the rise of what they call pedo chic, and adults need to stop dragging kids into their sexual fantasies. This is completely crazy. One of the wackier outskirts of identity politics, sympathetic talk of minor attracted persons, Tony, is becoming more and more widespread. Even USA Today, this is disgusting. They published a report on the complicated research behind pedophilia. And what if minor attraction is just another sexual identity that people are born with? The paper pondered these thoughts. It cited experts who believe we should talk about destigmatizing pedophilia. What do you say to this? I'm horrified.
It's horrific. The normalization of sexualizing children and pedophilia is unfathomable. Even that coming out of our mouths, that this is even being discussed as a probability, is frightening. I mentioned I was in Mexico City, for a few days, and whenever I'm there, I go to a shelter. It's a secret shelter for rescued girls from human trafficking, and a separate shelter for boys. And whenever I'm there, I visit them, run by amazing people, creating this beautiful family atmosphere for completely destroyed children who can never really recover from what they went through. One girl arrived there at 14 pregnant from a narco's, raping her. That child is born in the shelter and taken care of in that shelter, where she wasn't there when I was present, but they said she's like the light of the house. And that's because of the shelter. And this was maybe 5 days ago, just the day before this campaign came out. And what was very interesting, you walk in a room, bunch of single beds where the girls sleep. Each one of them was adorned with teddy bears, 5, 10 teddy bears. For them, it's like a symbol, a comfort. And then the very next day, I witnessed this at a dinner. I look at my phone and I see this, and developing a very heated discussion. And I happen to be with senior fashion people, very senior, and they all assured me that the approval process goes all the way up. So this deflecting should not be allowed. The public should not allow this. They have to be held accountable.
We have to do something about it. You're right. And you know how, think of this, right? So Balenciaga, let me think about this. You know how it is. You take a few photos to promote your products, and darn, you accidentally include children with pervert teddy bears in a nod to a ruling that dismantled part of the child porn law. Yeah, that could happen to anybody. But look, what?
Yeah, the child porn law, I'm a little... I'm not sure about that exactly. The way I see it, it was a law that basically stated that child porn, promoting child porn, is not freedom of speech. That is illegal.
Correct. The New York Times published that article. There was another article that made reference to a different Supreme Court ruling that was also documented. I think it was documented on Revolve. But regardless, listen, Tony, at the end of the day, this needs an explanation. To your point, it cannot be a coincidence that an ad campaign with very young children holding sex teddies also makes a sly reference to a court ruling, whatever that court ruling was, that said, not all sexualized depictions of kids should be illegal, or in the reverse, but still making a reference to a Supreme Court ruling. Someone involved in this, whether someone at Balenciaga or someone in the set design or photography teams that they hired for this campaign, they knew what they were doing. I'm sorry.
Connect the dots. It's ridiculous. When you go further back, and I need to do my research first, but things I'm reading, previous, creative directors or those responsible for that sort of set design and dressing. One Lola Volkova, I think. I just received something about it. I need to validate it, but there are articles out there already about it where they're showing images of what's on her Instagram, and it's sadistic, satanistic images on there, and again using children, and and of course I need to verify it. I haven't, but if that's true, it just shows you it's an endemic problem. Like, this is in the fabric of Balenciaga, and I think it warrants further investigation. But whether it needs investigation, but just on the facts we have right now, that they wanted to put this campaign out is enough. This is where we should draw the lines in. Like, we can't have next week this disappear in the mirage of bad news that's always out there. Like, this
they need to be canceled. They need to be canceled.
On the forefront. Absolutely. And anyone going in and shopping from them should really, anyone in your circle at least should be looked at in a different manner.
I'm sure. Listen, Balenciaga is a fashion powerhouse. It's loved by the Kardashians. It's all over red carpets, and yet its famous attention to detail appears to have escaped it when it was shown an image of a kid on a couch being gawked at by a fluffy blue bear in an outfit straight out of a pseudo chic movie set. It's one of those worrying trends of our time that we seem to be witnessing at an alarming rate. Surge in pedophilia and pedophilic sensibility. It needs to stop. I'm livid. I'm mad.
Realize,
I never get this mad.
No, but it's justifiable, because it's that shocking. And when I first came on the fight, I visited ICAC headquarters in Virginia, run by Sheriff Mike Brown, who's one of the founders of it, and ICAC's Internet Crimes Against Children. And what Sheriff Mike Brown used to say, I'm gonna enrage and engage you, and they stopped doing it because it was that shocking. The images I saw on the dark web. I still can't get them out of my head.
Oh, Tony, I'm sorry.
I've witnessed them take the diaper off a baby.
Oh,
those sounds will never leave you.
Yeah, never.
Etc. etc. And this was 15 years ago. You know, and it hasn't diminished. In fact, it's increased.
It's increased. We're seeing this
campaign.
And we're seeing in the campaign, you're right, and we're witnessing with our very eyes a surge in justifying this pedophilic sensibility and this, this is demystifying the stigma behind pedophilia. This is completely horrid. I can't. We have come to an end of the segment, my darling. Thank you so much for piping in. It's been a very rewarding segment because I got to vent. Good.
Let's not let them get away with it, Sam.
We're not.
The pressure has to continue.
We will. We'll continue to put the pressure on. Thank you so much, Tony. It was a pleasure chatting with you. Absolutely. You definitely have to check out my dear friend. Head to MOSAIC.com. But more importantly, check out their website, humanslavery.com. That's humanslavery.com. And please help support them. Give to the foundation. They are changing lives and really getting help for the multiple women and children out there that are being highly trafficked during these crazy times that we live in. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. That was our influencer segment brought to you by Revere Securities. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Revere Securities. Revere is committed to building a relationship of trust in which they work closely with you to help you define your objectives, explore alternatives, and choose the financial and investment strategies that are most appropriate for you. Go to reveresecurities.com.